Welcome to another weekend here on the platform. My name is Sam Omashe. On the program this week, I'll be speaking with Nigeria's Minister of Works and Housing, who I also call the Trojan of Works, Babatunde Raji Fashola, SAN. But before the big talk with the former governor of Lagos State, my column will be read to you now.
Now cracks a noble heart. Good night, sweet prince, and flights of angels sing thee to thy rest. Shakespeare. After I researched and wrote his biography, anytime I saw Abiola Ajimobi, it was not the politician or governor or senator that leapt into my eye. It was the altar boy, crisp, smart, the sparkle of childhood. In his primary school, he was selected to that status, though a Muslim, by the school because he was spick and span, face upended faith. He was always the model student in hygiene and fashion. His shirts, his trousers, his shoes, body cream, haircut were examples for others. His daughter, Abisola, told me how he paid attention to his appearance, from his skin, his bath, to his clothes for the day. He would spread a variety of apparels on the bed and meticulously make a judgment, sometimes consulting wife or any member of his family on what to wear. If what the experts say is correct, that we should follow the laws of hygiene in this area of COVID-19, the last person I expected to fall victim is Ajimobi. Yet, that virus that respects neither class nor faith nor courage struck, and fatally. In his play Twelfth Night, Shakespeare's Sir Toby noted, quote, "Care is an enemy to life. Care did not save one of the most careful men on earth. It is a nightmare of a paradox, a dark foreboding for all alive. It is a lesson in human impotence. It is not a time to say with the superstitious folks that he died because he wished to say his farewell at 70. Now, many will say his 70th birthday was his big, final valediction to the world. It was a fanfare of a party. The big and mighty in the nation came, so did the small in Ibadan. He too was in an ebullient spirit. He had a good dance with his wife, and spoke with great hope and rapture about his age and aging, and even his virility, when he quipped that the Ooni of Ife had assured him, quote, "Kábíyèsí sọ pé ara mi máa le." His Majesty said my body will be virile. And he was. He was agile, full of the gift of life and possibilities, and he earned his place again atop the political world. He died as acting chairman of his party. In that destiny was a managing director of the top oil marketing firm in the subcontinent, senator, governor, party leader, and statesman. When he was a child, according to the story, he visited the governor's house in Ibadan with his father, who was also a prominent politician. When he sat leisurely, his father told Abiola to sit properly. "Sit like a governor," he instructed. "One day, you too will become a governor." He never forgot that moment in prophetic attitude. But he did not seem the man for politics when he traveled to the United States, excelled in his studies, and even worked menial jobs, including in a mortuary. He did not return with any connections or plum jobs waiting in Nigeria. He got his jobs and worked his way up the ladder. He understood himself and applied his energies and vision as governor in Oyo State. He is the most consequential figure in modern Oyo State. He was focused, if sometimes too blunt for his people, but he was authentic and refreshed with his candor. He had his flaws, but he was more tender than many knew. The boy who fell into a ditch in an accident and bore a scar on his head and escaped death with his mother beside him in a rustic retreat in Yoruba land grew over the years to travel all over the world, to school in some of the world's top universities, to grow in fame and fortune, to become a headline grabber in the nation's television, newspapers, and magazines, became a mobilizer of men and resources, became a helmsman in corporate Nigeria, soared to victory as a man of power, held positions of envy as he leapt from rung to rung, was sworn in as a senator of Oyo State and the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and after a grueling epic of a fight both in the courts and on the ballot box, distinguished himself not only as a governor, but has set a record as the first personage to mount the seat as governor twice in a historic state of kings and kin, of quicksand loyalties and royalties in the capital, Ibadan, signposted as one of Africa's largest cities. He bowed out as governor with the garland and sobriquet, Kosheleri. It has never happened before.
Welcome back to the Big Talk segment. This week, my guest is the Trojan of Works, or who I also call the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Raji Fashola, SAN. Thank you for being on this show, sir.
Good afternoon, Sam. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, this is an interview that is, I will call a pandemic interview. Because we're in the middle of an extraordinary affliction worldwide. And it's affecting so many things, including our capacity to work. And you being in the center of this kind of activity, can you tell us in a nutshell how the pandemic has affected your capacity to operate as a Minister of Works and also Housing?
Well, as you probably already know, everybody is affected and every country is affected. And so within countries, institutions like ministries like mine are affected. But if we go from the slowdown on demand for oil and the glut that then created and the drop in prices, you know that the Ministry of Works would be affected like all other ministries in terms of revenues that then accrue to the country for all of government undertaking and indeed infrastructure. So one place where we have been hit is revenues. As you know, the budget has been revised. So the ministry budget, like all other departments, has also been revised to focus on new challenges that have emanated from this. So I think about 20% of our budget has been reduced, has been taken away. That's another impact. The other impact is that we also lost perhaps the most prolific period for doing our work, which is the dry season through March to June. So at that time, we were undertaking road tours, inspection tours, up till March 19, when I visited Port Harcourt and we had to stop. So those are some of the impact. The impact down the line is also a lot. People who depend on daily living from construction site, masons, laborers, vendors, and all the staff that depend on our construction activities are also affected. So also the supply chain that moves building materials, construction equipment across the whole sector. So everybody has been affected. But we are able to say that in spite of that, we have kept some work going so that people can earn a living. So we're working in 11 companies. The big 11 companies are working in 26 states at this moment, and they're executing 53 projects. in collaboration with the state governors who are at the front line of the implementation of the lockdown, restriction of movement, and so on and so forth.
Now, what this means also is that you have to prioritize. How do you prioritize? Because your work is geographic in nature and also, to that extent, political. Some people will say you are with us, you are not, you are doing a bigger project with them. Some will say you are doing lesser project with them. You have to rejig and do rebalancing. Well, how are you working towards making sure that this does not create tension? I've not heard of any tension yet, but you know the potential of things like this.
I assure you, Sam, there won't be any provable or um, demonstrable uh, bias against any section of the country. The truth is that it is impossible to build a road that goes to nowhere. So all of our roads connect major cities, major towns, and major destinations. The fundamental for deciding which road gets done is first that we want to continue as many of the projects started since 1999 in some cases by the previous administrations and which were not completed. Those roads do not belong to the administrations who started them, they belong to the Nigerian people. So that's one consideration. So as many of those roads as possible as our resources can carry are under our radar. Secondly, there's a strategy to road development. We need to move fuel. So those roads that go to depots, fuel depots, are a priority. We need to move food. So those roads that connect the biggest agricultural centers, maybe not necessarily every agricultural center, but the biggest agricultural centers where major staple, livestock, fish, and all of the grains come from and go to, must be a priority for any sensible planner. We need to move cargo, so roads that lead to our ports must be a priority, and those are the kind of priorities we're looking at. We are looking also at roads in our universities because education is important. Infrastructure affects the quality of education. So those kind of roads too, roads that connect borders, we share borders with many countries, Chad, Cameroon, Niger, Benin Republic, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the roads that link us and support the Made in Nigeria for Export programs. Again, those roads are priority. So we work under observation and a very large scrutiny, and so far so good, nobody can say that we are left behind. There is no state in the country where we are not executing one road work or the other. Some have 10 routes, some have 2 routes, some have 12, some have 6, but something is going on everywhere. So, but priority then is to complete. So if you look at the recent Sukuk, for example, we sought to raise 150 billion. There are 48 roads there. If you look at the breakdown of the routes, they are across the 6 geopolitical zones from northeast to northwest to north central to southeast to southwest to south south. So we then prioritize the roads that carry the heaviest vehicles in those zones, and those are the routes that we are funding with the Sukuk. So perfection is 100% perfection is hard, but on a zonal basis, it is hard to see anybody being left behind. On a state-by-state basis, it is also hard to see anybody being left behind. And that's the best that I think can be done.
There are 3 major projects that often come for mention during discussion of infrastructure in Nigeria. The Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the East-West Road, and then the second Niger bridge. There was some story about integrity tests for the Kara Bridge along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway recently. Some questions have been asked about, is it a factor that we have to come to live with heavy haulage vehicles, or we have to eventually have to pass them out to rail infrastructure or not? Because as it stands now, it seems that we are doomed to this kind of cycle of dealing with the integrity of roads. And that is also a trap for lives and even for commerce and even general communication.
Well, you know, governance and politics for me is always the art of what is possible. So I don't believe in these doomsday scenarios. Um, what is true is that not a few of those who manage these trucks and vehicles are not properly trained and certified to operate them. That is one thing. The other thing that is also true is that uh, governance of the highway in terms of speed control is also an issue. The last accident that caused the car accident, even the on bystanders report to the news was that the vehicles were overspeeding. And I've made this point. So a vehicle is a machine. It has rules and regulations for how you use it. And if you don't use it well, it will malfunction. Something as simple as the phone and the communication network with which I am talking to you now, if I don't use it according to its rules, it will malfunction. And we must all understand that. Uh, Let me also then make the point that we are not folding our arms, and you see that government's first response was to evacuate the victims, save lives where possible, and now we're going to property protection. That's what the integrity test is about. So there are many stages when these things happen. But it is important for members of the public to also know that those trucks are articulated vehicles. So what is important about them is that they're coupled together and the weight is at the back. So your elementary physics about inertia and force explains to you probably why some of these accidents are happening. A fully loaded truck running at top speed, when you suddenly have to stop, the weight of all the liquid surges and dislodges the weight of the cabin where the truck driver is all actually operating. That is what is responsible for most of these things. Is either upturns or swerves to the side dangerously because it's a fully loaded truck. So ideally, if you observe the speed, many of these accidents will minimize. But going forward, and I apologize for the time I'm taking on this, is that the rail project from Lagos to Ibadan by my colleague, the Honorable Minister for Transportation, is at an advanced stage, and it is also going again, as you see, just as our roads are going to ports. The rail project, Lagos to Ibadan, all the way to Kano eventually, is going also to the port. So what this means is that in the fullness of time, when that project begins to operate, sooner rather than later, you will see reduced cargo on the road. And that will include wet cargo like petroleum products and many other. And over time, those who are operating cargo now by road have to convert their cargo to rail. So there will be more investment in rail chassis to build petrol tanks on, to carry containers and so on. So we are close. We are within touching distance of the type of infrastructure we want to see. And a lot of it will come on in this second term of the Buhari administration. Not all of what, we won't finish everything, but you will see clearly what is possible by what we achieve.
Okay, now I'm sure you read the letter written to the president by Ambassador E.A. Clark saying that the East-West Road has not been paid the attention that it deserves, and that there is a lot of work that has been abandoned over time. And he was accusing the Buhari administration not only of neglect of that road, but he gave a political air to his attack on the president. And I saw that at the bottom of it is the work about works.
Okay, a few things first to say. First of all, let me say very categorically and emphatically, the Ministry of Works and Housing, which I should pretend is not responsible for the East-West Road. I want to repeat that. The Ministry of Works and Housing is not responsible for the East-West Road. The Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs is responsible for the East-West Road. So it's not under my supervision, but I know about it. Unfortunately, I haven't read the article to which you refer, but it is not unusual for interest groups and interested persons to blackmail leaders of the country about political bias in order to perhaps focus attention on the developmental needs of their area. President Buhari won't be the first, and I doubt that it will be the last. That is the burden, unfortunately, that some of the Nigerian presidents have had to carry. But the allegation of bias against the South-South is totally unfounded. The Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund, which was a baby of an initiative of the president, includes the East-West Road, it includes the Mambila Hydro Project, it includes the Second Niger Bridge, it includes Abuja-Kanu Road, and includes Lagos-Ibadan. So how much more should a president prove his pan-Nigerian outlook that a fund like that benefits almost every part of almost every zone of the country? You figure out where. But the truth actually is that where the project is even located is not where it benefits most. And I've made this point continuously. The community that hosts the project are just trustees of that project for the benefit of Nigerians. So irrespective of where a project is located, they are just trustees. That doesn't make it necessarily your own. It belongs to the Nigerian family as a commonwealth and a common asset. Let me also say that a lot of people have a lot of misunderstanding about the East-West Road. I can say categorically here that at least 70% of the East-West Road has been completed because I have driven on it. From Warri to Bayelsa to Port Harcourt to Calabar. I think the part that is outstanding is the part in Cross River State that goes towards Oron, and because of the cost there and the challenges there. The Chief of Staff to the President has met with me about this road as recently as 2 weeks ago, and we will be having a meeting involving the Minister of Niger Delta about how our ministry can provide technical support to the Ministry of Niger Delta to continue the remaining work. Some of the remaining work includes the part, again, as I said, Calabar, Oron, and also the part to Bayelsa. The part to Bayelsa, I recall that it was stopped by activists and violence at the time. The contractor had to close site. So if there is peace there now, certainly the Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, Akpabio, should be able to remobilize the contractor back to site. The money is there in the Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund to fund the project.
Talking about funding, there was this Economic Sustainability Committee report. How does that affect works and housing so far?
I think that there's probably a little disconnect between what the government intends to do with that program and what people understand of it. And let me take the opportunity to reiterate my own understanding. First of all, Nigerians must remember that we were at a 2.57% growth from recession 3 years ago. So our economy was heading towards the right path when COVID hit. So we are still running the economic recovery and growth plan. I think 2021 will be sunset date. So that plan is still guiding us. We are still running a 2020 budget. What has then happened is that because production has slowed down across the world, our economy has been affected. So government has decided using that economic sustainability plan to say, look, there might be a recession, but we want to make it as least painful as possible. So we're injecting a stimulus of 2.3 trillion naira into the economy. That 2.3 trillion naira is not exclusive of the budget. It is inclusive of what is already in the budget. So people should understand this. And that plan, the economic sustainability plan, is only going to run for 12 months on the assumption and the belief and the modeling that in 12 months' time, the coronavirus would have significantly eased off if it hasn't been fully defeated. Now, government uses that stimulus to do many things. First, to keep the economy going so that even if it slips down, people can recover quickly, create work, redistribute wealth. So it targets places where there is high impact and high opportunity. Agri, works, housing, digital technology, and those kind of places. So it's just government redirecting the area of its sharp economic lens to places where there can be much human activity. So you will see government talking about more labor-intensive work, construction work, using concrete, stone, cement. You will see government talking about solar projects because installation employs more people. Retail supply employs more people. And the vending ecosystem is larger and creates more benefit. You will also see government talking about digital economy because it involves a lot of people laying fiber optic, trenching the soil, plastering, casting. You will see government talking about employing 1,000 people in 774 local governments on an ad hoc basis. So those are the kind of things. They are just a stimulus. They do not derogate from the long-term, medium to long-term plan of our government.
Now on our photo essay is a picture of a village court in Uyo in 1949. And you can see that the judicial system has changed over the decades in many ways, not only technologically, but also sartorially, but also in language. You can see that there was an interpreter conveying words between the bench and the others in the court. And the court is actually an open air court. So you can see a great deal how things have changed. Just before the program ends, this is my poem in honor of Leah Sharibu.
To be a madam when you should be a maiden. To be a mother, but not ripe to mate. To be raped by a rake in the Almighty's name. To be plucked by a puff of fanatic wind. A dream of cornfield famished by a shadow of locusts. An eagle that envies the sky. That #Leah is you.
Thank you for watching the program today. You can catch up with my published column on www.samomashe.com. Also follow me on Twitter. My handle is @SamOmashe. Until next time, be good.